right, welcome back. Yes, it's go time. I just wanted to make sure that the time zone was accurate. Yes, it's not at 11 p.m. I gotta laugh because every time I do one of these things, like the settings are completely right on this program. For some reason, YouTube thinks that I am in California, but I am not in California. I am here in cold Buffalo, New York. I hope you guys are having a great day. Stock Noodle, John Don, Unboxing Bastard, Jord Hugga, Mad Scientist, I hope you guys are all doing well. Great to have you here. Please light up the comment section, the chat room, and get your questions ready for Nick and Harold. But before we get into that, all right, 2 years. It's been 2 years since I invested in ILUS. And I'm going to open up and get this party started with ILUS and just do a recent recap. I did put out a video earlier if you haven't seen it, but I'm getting pretty excited. And you know what? Some of you are like, oh, why are you getting so excited? It's only 3.5 cents a share. But you know what? This company has a lot lined up. So I am completely enthralled with what they have going on. So yeah, 2 years ago is when I really started getting into the ILUS. So I'm going to do a quick little screen share and just go over a couple things as to why I'm excited and, just go over some of the things that they've released lately in their PR. So let's get right to that. And let's look, they're sitting at 3.45 cents, completely undervalued in my opinion, based on what they have going on with QIND and Quality International and everything else. When I made that thumbnail earlier, if you got a chance to see that piece I put out earlier, like it just actualized itself in my brain how big this company is going to be. They have 11 companies already under the ILUS umbrella, which is really remarkable, but they're just getting started. They do have a market cap of 50 million, but with everything that they've added and everything that they're doing and the whole process that they're instilling here, they have maintained a relatively a solid share structure. Outstanding share count is 1.389 billion, but with everything that they've added, that thing has barely moved in almost 2 years. And, it really blows my mind that they're able to do this. And there's a lot of stipulations as to how they're getting these acquisitions. And, I really think a lot of it's going to work out. A lot of it has to do with funding as well. And so we're waiting for actually another QID, another quality acquisition, not to mention ERT and all that. So real quick, I also want to talk a little bit about their last PR, and I did talk about this earlier. ILUS confirms new first phase deal for ILUS EV technologies in Serbia. So this is going to be huge. They're finally going to be able to manufacture their E-Raptor 6x6 models, and they're not going to stop there. They already have plans to do the 4x4 models as well. And they're going to work on these government contracts, with the European Union. I see a lot of great things happening here. So, they are positioning themselves nicely. But most importantly, there's a lot of news that's going to be coming out soon. I know some people are like, oh, it says 2 weeks. It has to be 2 weeks. By now, I know not to care about the timeline. If they say 2 weeks, I'm expecting 3 or 4 or whatever, or maybe sooner. Who knows? You know what? Sometimes they do shock us once in a blue moon, but we forget about that. We always forget about that. And we always freak out, doom and gloom, if something's a couple days behind. Business doesn't always work, perfectly. And, when they do these deals and acquisitions, there's a lot of going back and forth, negotiating and stipulations that they have to change in contracts. And it is tedious, especially with everything they have across the board. They have their hands full, and I expect their team's going to grow. So we are going to hear more about Hyperion Defense Solutions, the counter IED agreement. That's going to be big. QID and NYSE American listing application, not to mention the ILUS listing application for the OTCQB. ILUS share lockup and QIND uplist value to shareholder values. Like I said earlier, I brought that up on the show. And when I talked to JP in that interview, and he is going to talk about how that is going to directly affect ILUS shareholders and ERT fixed firefighting systems. A lot of you, it started with water mist. That's how this whole thing started 2 years ago, watching a cool video on water mist and getting into the trading world. And it's amazing how this thing has grown since then. And, I could see after that first shareholder meeting, everything coming to fruition, how they talked about the subsidiaries and the spinoffs and everything. Well, guess what? We're living in the moment. We're living in them building it right now. So that is absolutely just amazing. So they far exceeded my expectations. It's more than just a water mist company. It's far beyond that at this point. ERT acquisitions, plural. I like that. The one that they were looking at was a $60 million acquisition. They had 60 million in revs in 2022, which would be great. I'm looking at the Dan Peters connection with ERT, and I almost want to say it's E1, but that is just speculation, of course. That's just speculation. So that's that. So how are you guys feeling? I'm on the other side of the Niagara. Yes. All right, John Don. So where are you at? You're in Canada then? Oh man. Let's see. ILUS at bargain prices, in my opinion. The big BS. I completely agree. Michael Singleton. Don't you dare let it happen again. How dare you be late to a live broadcast of the BFC? I'm just kidding. You had some really, really, really good answers. So yeah, guys, I'm excited to be doing this. Wednesday is going to be the thing. So yeah, whenever you see a tag, a thumbnail, it'll always say 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, EST. For some reason on YouTube, it says 11 p.m. and I don't get it. I've tried switching the settings. Maybe the unboxing bastard could tutor me a little bit in that. If you want to shoot me a DM on how to maybe fix that, that would be great. Pretty soon we're gonna have Nick and Harold on with 3DX Industries, and it's gonna be fantastic. Now, all right, whereabouts in Canada are you, John Don? That's where I want to know. If you're in Ontario, you're literally a stone's throw away. So, and by the way, you know what else we're gonna talk about? Oh, we're gonna talk about CYBL, but not yet because I want to talk to Nick and I want to talk to Harold. So we're going to talk CYBL at the end. And if you are invested in CYBL, if you've been riding out the shit show called CE, well, then guess what? It looks like the nightmare is about to be over and we are going to be pink current very soon. So that will be alleviating a lot of the stress. And that is awesome news. And I'm going to talk a little bit about CYBL at the end of the show. So make sure you stick around for that. So let's get into it. Guys, welcome from 3DX Industries, Nicholas Coriano and Harold Blackwell. Gentlemen, welcome to Buffalo Fireside Chats. How you guys doing?
B-Rock, thanks for having us, man.
Awesome. Harold, do I got your audio? Do we have Harold? Do we have Mr. Blackwell?
Let's see, I know it's freezing up a little bit on my end. I don't know if it's doing the same for him. It might be.
Yeah. We're looking good here. If you hear kids screaming in the background, well, that's my family, and they're a bunch of maniacs. That's usually what happens at late at night. They get tired and delirious, and they get loud. So it looks like we lost him. So hopefully he gets back on soon. All right. John Don is actually a couple hours away near Stratford, Ontario. Well, how you doing, neighbor? All right. So I was going to open up with Mr. Blackwell. So I'm just going to proceed forth. There's nothing worse than technical difficulties, but we're just going to keep this party started. So in the comments section, in the chat, let me know if you are interested or invested in 3DX. And let me know if you plan on investing. And if you have any questions, put them down in the chat below. So I'm just going to start here. Could you guys educate the viewers and tell us more about the metal 3D printing process and why additive printing is going to be on the rise?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big difference between metal 3D printing and traditional manufacturing services is, traditional manufacturing services, what they call subtractive, they would take a big block of steel and carve away at it to get the part. And in additive, basically, there's a powder and a sintering agent, which kind of, molds the metal powder together, through what they call binder jet printing. That part comes out of this basically box of powder, and it's hardened out of that powder. And so in a box, so for example, when I say box, the 3D metal printing machine has this box that we fill up with powder, we shove it into the machine, and you can make as many parts or as little parts as you want out of that box. So I think our build box is 2 feet by a foot by a foot. And in that box, we can make, 100 rings, all custom, a couple gears. As much as we can fit in that box, we can do it at the same time. So the same time that it would take to make one part, we could make literally 1,000 different parts. So metal 3D printing is going to change the game in manufacturing, just because, the parts that used to be so complex and take so long to develop can now literally be put into a CAD design, and the machine can do it itself without having to take out the part, readjust it like you would in a CNC machine. So that's the 11,000 foot view of why metal 3D printing is going to change the game.
it does seem more cost effective than subtractive. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's super. I mean, initially, right, which is what we've dealt with at 3DX, it's not cheaper because of the upfront cost, right? So a metal 3D printing machine, unlike what I used to think, is $1 million proposition. To put one, we have two. We have two metal 3D printers. So there's upfront cost to developing the technology, the infrastructure costs. But once those are in place, which we have in place, it becomes super cost effective to develop new products, right? Or parts. And what the industry calls it is DFAM. So designed for additive manufacturers. So basically they're taking parts that traditionally were made with CNC machines and they're introducing it to the metal additive market and transferring over the production capabilities of that part from a CNC machine to now 3D metal printing machines. But yeah, it's going to be a huge cost saver. There's no, and it's the subtractive process. When you used to chip away at a block of steel, you would have a bunch of, extra steel hanging around on the floor that you cut out of. Now with metal 3D printing, there is no extra material. You're literally just using the material you need. And even the powder that gets left behind from making a part can be reused. So it's definitely more cost effective. As far as labor intensive, right? Like I said, you can make 100, 1,000 parts depending on the size in one build, as opposed to having 100 different machines do it. So super cost effective.
That's absolutely amazing, guys. Put your questions down in the chat. Harold, welcome back to the program. How you doing, man? His mute's on.
Let's see if we can get him in here.
We actually did a test run earlier because this is his first time on the BFC. You see what happens on your first time? Sometimes you got technical issues, but we did try this earlier and it worked pretty well. But yeah, I mean, and even with that additive process, which is cost effective, and the fact you're able to reuse product is absolutely amazing. Are there certain processes that you would end up using subtractive printing for? Like
subtractive manufacturing?
Use manufacturing. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So of course, there's going to be some things that you're still going to use subtractive for. There's still going to be some things you use a stamp and mold for, right? Like if you have a production assembly of forks and you're making, 1 million forks a year and you're stamping them out of metal, you're probably not going to change that process over to additive manufacturing. So it's not going to, it's interesting because some people say, oh, 3D printing is going to, revolutionize. It definitely will. I agree with that statement. But some people say, it's going to eliminate subtractive. That's not necessarily true. All the engineers I've talked to, everybody in this space, everybody in the machine shop world, as well as the 3D printing world, thinks it'll be more like an added bonus, right? So think of it more along the lines of, someone had the traditional hammer was around and someone created a better hammer. It didn't really eliminate the traditional hammer, but now it gave us a better hammer to do certain jobs. And what 3D printing does is it's a technology. When you have a super complex part, it makes it very, very efficient and cost effective to produce that super complex part, as well as customization. So when you're talking about, something that needs to be done custom right now, because there's a rush on it, that's going to be moved over to additive manufacturing. But it won't usurp all of manufacturing, but it will take out portions of manufacturing that before were otherwise super complicated. That's a place where they're definitely going to compete. But there's some products that it'll take over completely, but we don't see it eliminating the need for CNC machines. It's going to complement them, and that's one of the competitive advantages at 3DX, that they have a subtractive division. So if you look at most metal 3D printing companies, number one, most of the comparables on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange sell the machine. So I want you to think about the difference between, HP and Dell, who sell the computers, and Google and Yahoo and Twitter, who use the computers to build infrastructure and software, right? We're more along the lines of the latter, which is we're using the machines. And then even out of the people that have the machines, which I think we're one of maybe one or two companies that are actually using the machine to create parts. Wow. No one that's public that I know of has actually a subtractive division as well. So it allows
Wow.
us to conquer both. We have the subtractive side and we have the additive side.
That's amazing. All right, you are lagged just a little bit. So, Harold, are you with us? All right. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this going because I do have a lot to get to. So I know we have some questions rolling in. We are going to. I'm going to pull a couple of these up in a second, but I do want to because you're sort of we're going on that track. Could you talk about the new certification? I think it's a JCP certification, correct? Could you talk more about that certification and sort of why it's crucial for the growth of 3DX industries?
That's definitely a Harold question. I don't know if he's having, because I could feel the lag on my side too, by the way. Um, I wish Harold could hop on to answer that because he can answer it better. But
That is a good one. That is a good question for Mac. That was actually for him, actually.
yeah, so I mean, I'll give you the basis until he kind of comes about. If he doesn't come about, that's fine. We'll catch you next time. But
Yep.
generally, the government contracting, there's so many hurdles to jump through. I didn't even realize how many hurdles there were to jump through. But not only do you need certifications, but there's just all these little check mark things you need to do before you apply for RFPs or RFBs, or requests for proposals from the federal government. And one of them is that certification. So as the way I understand it, for example, there's just rudimentary things that you need. For example, like a SAM.gov account, a CAGE code, DUNS number, right, tax ID number. These are just simple things that most businesses have. When you start getting into the government, they start tacking onto that list of things that you need. And this is one of those things that you need before you can even start, applying for government contracts. So I don't know where we are in that process, but I think we're in the home stretch
Wow.
of that, because even after the certification, there's other things that we need, but that division is moving along better than the audio and visual for Harold's computer tonight. So
we get to laugh. We get to laugh at his expense next show.
Exactly.
Totally.
Exactly.
No, that right on. I do have some questions coming in. I know I have a bunch of questions here, but I want to take care of my guys. Oh wait, Sam Akers in the room. Sam, you're not welcome at the BFC. You're not allowed to be on the BFC anymore. You are banned, sir. No, I'm just kidding. Sam Akers, awesome. He just put out a couple videos today too. So if you get a chance, check out his videos. Check out his website, samakerfinance.com. So first question I'm going to give is from Mad Scientist. What companies are they trying to get to work with them? I know we're going to talk about this a little later, but go for it.
Yeah, so okay, here I go. I see the comments. What's up, DJ Cool? I'm a little slow on some of these comments here. What's up, DJ Cool? What's up, Tom Sign? Jeff Moore, JJ. What's up? Now I know your first name, JJ, Jeff. What do you call it? Yeah, so the customers. One of the most beautiful things I loved about 3DX when I first, got introduced to them and actually, visited their facilities in the state of Washington was that they have a long customer base, a long history with customers, including being a subprime for the U.S. Navy and Boeing and some major players. But man, they've done it all from train parts to plane parts. The U.S. Navy being one of our biggest customers there. They're winding down. They're slowing up their production of the U.S. Navy fleet. Republicans in office usually have a better time of spurring up revenue for the armed forces. So I'm sure we'll see that. It's not cyclical, it's contract based. So I'm careful to use the word cyclical, especially in government contracting, right? But it does kind of go in cycles, right? When more money gets shoved down the Department of Defense, they order more tanks and more trucks and more planes and more boats. So we usually see a spike in manufacturing there, but the U.S. Navy being one of our biggest name brand customers. Then, like I said, we had Boeing before, Northrop Grumman. I'm naming the big names here. We have some smaller names where, they're making, parts for a vacuum for Dyson. I'm pretty sure. Race parts, race components for, the 3DX race bike, which is, the name's eluding me right now, but it'll come to me. Jesco Racing. So Roger actually was today talking to another, a 3D printing company about making race parts, parts for the racing industry. But as
Wow.
far as the profit margin, I mean, as far as the customer base, it ranges, but generally they're other manufacturers. So if you look at Boeing, they're a manufacturer, right? Jesco Racing, they're a manufacturer, they're an engineering firm. But our core customer are other engineering and manufacturing firms. And then, second to that would be these big prime contracts from the federal government that usually get subbed out to us even before we got the certifications.
So can I ask you about because I was going to ask you about that. Are you going to cut out the middleman instead of going through the subcontractors with the certification and being able to get those contracts yourself, or do you still have to work with a subcontractors that are fixing overall components for the Navy, or can you cut right into it?
Yeah, both, right?
Okay.
So our goal is we're not malicious in our attempts to go out there and try to cut the relationships that we've had, but there's a lot more work that we can do. What do you call it? So hold on, that's Harold texting me. Just let me shoot him a text. He said trying to get some Wi-Fi. I don't even know if it's him. Yeah. So I mean, we're not trying to cut out, our partners and people that we've subbed for before. Now, can we go and bid on those contracts directly? And will we? Absolutely, we absolutely will. But there's so many contracts out there. I mean, literally billions and billions and billions of dollars in government contracting. So we'll continue to work with the suppliers and the contractors we have, but we're definitely going to start shooting for more direct contracts. So, for example, a lot of people don't know SBIR, the Scientific Research Division of the United States government, gives out tons of research grants and contracts for developing new technologies in certain arenas. And, now we can apply for that directly with Harold's work. But yeah, we plan on, applying directly for sure, competing with some of the contracts, but really, stretching our wings there and going after, some of our own contracts in newer spaces. That's definitely the goal of the government contracting division.
That's excellent. I do have a question here from the Sam Aker. What is the current ideal world timetable for positive cash flow from operations, and where do you see your terminal ROA and EBIT margins at full capacity?
Great question. So I love it because it's a real finance question from a guy that calls himself Sam Aker
Shocker,
Finance.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Current timetable for positive cash flow from operations. So I mean, they've achieved that. They've always just constantly thrown the money back in. So I mean, positive cash flow, from an accounting perspective, basically was achieved. Now, whether they choose to not reinvest that money and put it right back into the business, that's exactly what they did. So, I mean, to answer, I don't like beating around the bush because I don't like it when other, executives do this. I would say, between 12 and 24 months, we're looking at, higher positive cash flow, and, bigger margins at full capacity. So between 12 and 24 months. And then, these situations are cyclical too, but between 12 and 24 months, we're always, shooting for 365 days. But I've learned that what you were saying at the beginning of the show is absolutely correct, which is some things in business take longer than you thought, and that's something that I've come to realize in my experience working with, 3DX, that, things that otherwise would be, a normal process, they just take a little bit longer because you weren't factoring in that the CEO has to, travel, 30 days out of the year to these special conferences, and then times where his, the executive team's focus is not on customer acquisition. It may be on, messaging or PR or, financing the business. So, but I would say between 12 and 24 months.
That's great. I'm excited. I'm actually taking the dive into Triple DX this week, and I'm completely excited about it. I know a couple of us are, and this is, and anybody that's watched this show, you guys know that I really aim for the OTC companies that have revenue, that are expanding, that are transparent. Anytime I've had a question for you, Nick, even in my personal life in regards to real estate or whatever, you are very accessible and transparent, and that's one thing that I that attracts me to 3DX is your involvement in it, just like a lot of the other companies that you're able to get a hold of them. The fact they're willing to come on and answer these questions, Thank you very much. I want to get into something real briefly. Now, you did mention, basically, you have a couple important dates coming up, but I want to talk right now about this one more specifically. This is your Twitter account here, 3DX Industries. Our history for making 3D printed parts for the racing industry, and you just mentioned this, is getting started. From motorcycles to Formula One, Triple DX, 3DX Industries can help. And there is Roger Jansen at Rapid, which is North America's largest and most influential additive manufacturing event. High performance offshore racing propellers made by additive manufacturing. We're taking meetings with all the top players in the industry to let them know about DDDX. And I think I put one extra D in there, 3D printing capabilities. It really is it's remarkable. Could you talk a little bit about, I almost removed you there for a second. Could you talk a little bit about, the importance of this convention? You did a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
But could you also talk a little bit about East Tech coming up, as well as, and what you guys are planning to accomplishing there? And even in June, you guys are going to be at the Electric Vehicle Symposium and Exposition. So could you just give us the rundown on the 3DX tour and what you guys are expecting to retain from it?
Yeah. First, I'm going to need you to like that tweet. I saw that.
Did I not like that tweet?
I don't know, but I didn't see a red heart, so I'm gonna need you to go back there.
Hold on. All right, are you gonna? Jeez, Louise.
But
I thought I
no
did.
worries. You can go back.
My balls here. I love it.
You can go back later. What do you call it? Yeah. Look, these events are where, and I've said this before, and I think I said it here. These events are where all the industry head honchos are. So first and foremost, they always say you become the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? So I'm always making sure that the executives in the company is surrounding themselves with other major players. So get out in front of Desktop Metal, which is a NASDAQ traded company. Get in front of GE Additive, get in front of HP Additive and Mitsubishi Additive and these divisions. So we make sure we know where the bars are. And I don't mean the drinking bar, right? I mean the hyperbole bar of of greatness. So that's number one. It's important for us to stay around the top industry players for sure. Number two, the newest technologies are usually at these conferences. So when you talk about advancing technology, it's very analogous to e-commerce or Chat GPT now, where people are like, oh my God, is it going to take over the world? No, it's just a new tool, but if you don't use the tool, you're going to be behind. It's like the guy who, was banging the nail in with a rock, and all of a sudden the hammer came around. Like, you could still use the rock, but if you use the hammer, you were going to go a lot further, faster. So these conferences are great for just keeping up to date with the newest technologies, because at the end of the day, we really are advanced manufacturing. So whether it's subtractive or additive 3D printing, when the robotic arms now that, can synthesize or systemize manufacturing processes are there, we want to be in touch with those things. And then the third thing, so, the group of people that we're networked with, that's number one. The new technologies, number two. And then 3, the deal making opportunities. So Rapid, for example, the conference that Roger's at today is, for additive manufacturing, it's one of the 2 biggest conferences. The next one is AMUG, Additive Manufacturer Users Group. But this one it's in Chicago. I mean, you can't even if you spent the whole 3 days there, 4 days at the conferences, you still can't see everything there. It's so big. I mean, if you've ever been to the McCormick Center in Chicago, it's just enormous. But all the major players are there, and it leaves the door open for deal making opportunities. So one of the things I've seen in the additive manufacturing space is this consolidation of the manufacturing space. So for example, if you look at Desktop Metal last year, and I keep using them as a reference because we use their machines. We use their X1 machines. So they did over $2 billion in acquisitions. $2 billion in acquisitions, and I haven't checked the market cap, but I want to say the market cap is under 600 million, and I'm pretty sure they have a pretty decent cash position of like 100 million. So when you look at those numbers, right, there's something off there, meaning, how do you spend $2 billion and your company's only worth 600 million? Well, this is happening all over the additive manufacturing sector, where they're consolidating and they're buying up all this intellectual property or these capabilities, or these companies as a whole, and they're putting them into a fold. Now, when this happens at scale, when you see an industry consolidating like that, usually the very next thing that happens is either they extract those capabilities, and they create value from those capabilities under their current company, or they start shuttering divisions because it didn't work, or they start spinning them out. I'm betting that the latter happens at some scale, and that we're going to be there to pick up the pieces. So to get the point across, right, I make sure that Roger and the team at Rapid is having the conversations with GE Additive, Desktop Metal, Hewlett Packard, Mitsubishi, about if they are choosing to spin out those divisions, or if they have a division that doesn't neatly fit into their corporate infrastructure, that 3DX is more than willing to entertain a spin out, right, or an acquisition of that division, and our cap structure, along with our executive team, make it the perfect fit for those companies to do that. So I've been on that. I foresaw that. I foresaw the consolidation when I first got here 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, I had already started reaching out to GE and Desktop Metal and basically saying that, hey, look, if you guys want to spin out one of those divisions, let us know, right? Now, 2 years ago, when everything was hunky-dory, they kind of just, okay, thanks for the email. Some people ignored it. Today, fast forward to today, they're already doing it. So if you look at Desktop Metal, they just spun out a division. So I don't know if it was foresight. It was foresight, because I did see it coming down the pipeline, but now we're well positioned, because for the last 2 years, we've been having these conversations with these, GE and HP, and, there's no promises, right? There's no guarantees that any of that stuff will happen, but is definitely something that I've pushed on and I've leaned into heavy, knowing that, they're going to be strapped with those acquisition costs, and it's going to make sense for them to spin them out. So it's definitely something. That's the third reason why we attend those events, is really looking for those deals from those major companies.
That's absolutely awesome. It seems like you're positioning yourself to be prepared to take on more, and that's great for the shareholder. That's great for the company, and I wish you all the luck in that. And it's good to see you guys attending all these conventions and really putting yourselves out there. That networking is the most important thing. That's how you build. And well, of all people, and I do want to talk about something that is absolutely that I want to share with the viewer here. You guys have a very sexy share structure. Now, you're sitting at a market cap of 3.1 million, authorized shares of 175 million, and your outstanding share count is less than, I'm not going to say 1 billion this time. I'm going to, like I did last time. You're like, what the hell? And I'm like, no, listen, an outstanding share count of under 100 million and a float of 44 million. What can you tell the prospective shareholder or the shareholders now that you guys are always going to continue to make it a priority to avoid meaningless dilution?
Yeah. Oh man, you bringing that up on the screen. It looks so beautiful. What do you call it? Yeah. It was one of the, and keep in mind that a lot of those unrestricted shares are held by management too. So we buy on the open market. So, and, we always have the conversation about lock up the float. If you believe in the company, buy it, take it out of the market. And the faster we can lock it up, the faster everybody wins, the shareholders, as well as the company and the stakeholders of the company. So, but yeah, these guys, even before I got there, I mean, they've been on the market, OTC markets now, I think for 8 years, going on 8 years this year. I've been with them 2 years come now, right? So this is my 2-year anniversary. And when I got there, they no toxic, financing, very tight cap structure. Every conversation I've ever had with management about issuing new shares, usually to bring on somebody or to create or to make an acquisition of machinery, or in a very small amount of cases to pay down debt, has always been, a very serious conversation. So they don't take it lightly, which is good, because being in the OTC space, I have run-ins with companies that were very loose to issue shares for just about anything. So that was already a green flag for me, a green light for me, just seeing them have that conversation. And then as I've been there in the last 2 years, the only shares that we've issued were, in part to reduce debt, but mainly to bring on top talent at the company in the form of 2-year restricted stock positions. And the people that signed up for 2 years generally, right? So our board members and some of our executives, which was a testament to a real company, right? Because they weren't coming on, for a short period here. These guys were coming on for, the long haul, because they saw the long haul. And when they did issue restricted stock to some of these guys, they issued it at $1 billion valuation, meaning, let me clarify that so everybody understands. If we were trading at $10 million, they would pay somebody, if they were going to pay somebody $100,000, they would value the stock as if they were $1 billion company, meaning the person coming on had to accept the fact that they were receiving, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 worth of shares, but that one day, if we achieved $1 billion valuation, that those shares would be worth 100,000. So we sold the future value of the company to a lot of the executives, including myself, including Harold, including Peter Devone, our board member, and some of our other advisors, to them, and they bought it, which again is a testament to how big everybody here thinks it can get. But yeah, the cap structure is super tight. We don't have plans to issue more shares for anything foreseeable, unless it's a major acquisition or a top talent play or a very strategic financing. And even that, these guys the management there is great at biting their teeth and eating ramen noodles when they need to not have to, dilute on the shareholders, which I definitely appreciate, because I'm a shareholder, and so is the CEO, and so is Harold. Me and Harold do not get $1 compensation, a cash value compensation. We're all on restricted paper, and that's the way we like it. We want to be able to build the company and reap the rewards with the shareholders.
That's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that's why I'm investing in you guys. So, a lot of us are. Guys, if you have any questions, put them down in the chat. I'm really excited about this journey. I can't wait to see you guys grow in the next year, especially when you're talking about, where you see yourselves, especially in 12 to 14 months, all the networking you're doing, all the contracts that you have the potential of, that certification. I do want to put a question out just to acknowledge John Don. And you did sort of, you talked about this earlier, are complicated parts that normally would take hours by a machinist to produce. Will it be more cost efficient with your system? And you did offer a response.
Yeah, he had another question that I want to touch, which is, are they planning to roll out more machines soon?
There it is. There it is. So are they planning to roll out machines soon? Do they have a waiting list of potential customers that need their services?
So great question, right? So one of the things that so yes and yes is the answer. There's a short answer to that, and the little bit longer answer to that is, so we've always been in contact. There's a lot of people that make 3D metal printing machines, right? So some of the big players are Stratus, 3DO, and Desktop Metal, and then you have HP, General Electric, Nikon, as well as others. Now, what I realized 2 years ago was very similar to the computer boom. At first, you had a few companies making the machines, right? And then you fast forward a few years, and a ton of people are making computers, and the actual cost of technology goes down. So before, where you need $20,000 to buy a computer, and it took up the whole room. Eventually, it got down to a few $1,000s, and now for $100 you get the computing power you had years ago on a cell phone, right? So the cost of technology usually goes down. There's downward pressure on that, and I knew that would be the case for 3D printing, and sure enough, today, while you can still get a $1 million metal 3D printing system setup, you're starting to see competition come in from Germany. Well, Germany was the start of it, but really from Asia. China's coming in with these new machines that we think are going to be players. So a little spoiler alert for the people that are here early, and I'm sure I'll put this up either tomorrow or Friday, probably tomorrow. Roger sent the social media team a picture of him meeting with KEGS Manufacturing. KEGS Manufacturing is out of Beijing, and they're making metal 3D printing machines, and they're looking for a distributor / supplier in the United States. So we're in talks, right? And what we realize is that we might be able to get a room full of, remember, these are machines that otherwise would be $1 million setup, for each machine. But we're looking at getting a container full of those machines back to the US through some joint venture partnership with some manufacturing firm. I won't commit to who, because we don't know, and we really haven't locked anything in, but we're having conversations. Like at Rapid, we had conversations with several new 3D metal printing machine manufacturers out of Asia, and we think that there's a good potential for us to bring in a whole slew of other machines. So the way we see it is right now, if you've ever been to the warehouse in Washington, there's 3 huge rooms. I'm not really good at measuring square footage off the bat, but they're pretty damn big. You can fit in one of the rooms, you can probably fit, 5 18-wheelers. Let's put it that way. So one of those rooms we have 3 rooms. 2 of them are subtractive. One of them is additive manufacturing. We're planning on switching that over. So it'll be 2 additive manufacturing. So we'll go from the 2 machines we have now. We see, a room full of 3D printers in the future. So, anywhere from 10 to 20 machines added to the portfolio. How we acquire those machines, we have to be strategic. We don't want to go and raise a ton of capital, right, and dump it on us, the shareholders, to solidify that cost. But if we can find a joint venture or a reseller partnership program with one of these manufacturers of these machines, we'd love it to be USA based. We haven't gotten the reciprocation we'd like from the USA based company, so we're going to keep trucking along, and we're talking to the companies in Asia. But the answer to that is absolutely. We're definitely looking at getting more machines on, John. So we appreciate the question. And yes, they can make more complicated parts. I think the follow-up question was, are complicated parts that normally would take hours by a machinist to produce, will they be more efficient, cost-effective with your system? Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the point of metal 3D printing. It's more cost-effective.
Yeah, and he does have another follow-up here. Your company is basically a service, and you talked about this, that offers to operate the machines and producing parts for retail to end user customers. How will you differentiate your company from another company that is willing to do the same thing?
Great point. That's a great question, John. What do you call it? The biggest difference today is that we have a subtractive division. So most people that are doing metal 3D printing don't have the finishing, right? So they usually have to machine the part with a metal 3D printer and then take it out, and they may have to send it someone else for post, processing or finishing, or they may not be able to make the total part in house. So one of our biggest competitive advantages is that we do both, right? So that's a huge competitive advantage. And then just the engineering team that we've assembled there, that can tackle the problem, I would say that's our second competitive advantage. But first competitive advantage is that, we're doing subtractive and additive. And then, second, I would say it's our, executive team and our engineering team. And then if you wanted to add a third, it's the fact that we are probably, I don't know of another one. If you guys can find it, I'd love to know about it. But we're probably the only metal 3D printing service company that also has subtractive that's publicly traded. So that's pretty cool.
That's excellent. John, thank you for the awesome questions. All right, now you've talked a lot about, I see a lot of positives in this, but I'm a optimistic guy. I tend to look at the bright side of life. That's just me. I'm an optimist. Yeah, anybody that follows me here knows I'm an optimist. And I got to ask, so, because we're down to the last couple of questions, and I want you to really just captivate for me, 3DX Industries. What makes 3DX Industries so special, and why are some reasons people should consider following and investing in you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so number one, the technology. The technology is amazing. The ability to create so many customized, intricate parts at one time, right? It's not, because that's impressive by itself. The fact that you can create intricate, customized parts, that's alone is interesting. But the fact that you can do so many of them at the same time in a cost-effective manner, that's the number one reason for me. So I'll give you guys my reasons. Disclaimer: these are my reasons for investing. So number one, the technology. It's just an incredible technology, and 3DX is at the forefront of that. So one of the biggest barriers to entry, or the moat that the business has, is that if anyone on this feed, even if you were an engineer and you went and bought a metal 3D printer, you're 3 to 6 months away from printing. It's not something you just plug into the wall and plug and play. It's something that you need to learn about. And, we've taken the bruises. I should say Roger's taken the bruises there, and the team there has taken the bruises there to understand it. So that's number one, the technology. Number two, the team. They really have a resilient team there outside of me and Harold. They have a team that, has grit, and, it just has a never quit attitude, which I don't care what business you're in, you need that, because tough times are right around the corner. And when those tough times come, you see a lot of entrepreneurs fold. And that's the last thing I want to see when I make a big investment into a company, is anyone fold. So they have grit, determination. I've seen these guys, tackle not just, engineering problems, but financial problems where, the capital's tight and they continue to operate and run in a lean fashion. So the technology, the grit, the relentlessness of the entrepreneurs. And then number three, my favorite, which is the cap structure. These guys are low float, tiny cap structure, very conservative with the issuance of any shares. If they're issuing any shares, they're all restricted. So they're very intentional and disciplined when it comes to their cap structure. So those are the three big reasons I see a future with 3DX Industries, and that's why I'm invested long term. Right. So those are my three main reasons. But the cap structure, as an investor myself, as a guy with a background in finance, I love the cap structure. Like, even if the company did absolutely nothing, which there's 0% chance that happens, that cap structure in a good market would run. And as we continue to buy out the float, one of the agendas that I have a 5-year contract, so I have 3 years left there. My first day there, I made it very clear to management and the executives that, hey, it's our responsibility to buy out the float. Like, we can help the investors, but if you want to secure your financial future, start buying it up. So there are insiders buying up that float. I know DJ Cool got on board. I see him in there. JJ's on board. There's a couple of guys here on board that understand, how tight it really is. And as we continue to buy that out, I mean, it's going to be a huge catalyst for investors. So that's one of the things I'm excited about. But those are the three big reasons why I think people should be investing in 3DX.
Right on. Where do you see you guys in about, like you did talk a little bit about 12 to 14 months? In that time frame, revenues, profits, market cap, and overall valuation, whereabouts do you see yourself?
I
The
mean,
company, not you particularly.
oh,
But
okay. Yeah. I mean, look, where I see myself is irrelevant to where we'll be. I'm always, if you're following me on Twitter, I'm very optimistic. So, do I want to be at $1 billion in revenue? Yeah. What do I see? I'm not sure, but I'll give you my conservative and my optimistic take on it. I'm always overshooting. So if this was internal, I want to make it clear that I would be, talking about $1 billion contracts, right? Because I need to have my team focused on the right mindset. But look, the conservatively speaking, on the government contracting side, we need one contract to break $10-20 million in revenue, right? So that's organic growth. That's not a lot of effort on our part. So, that brings us well over our market cap. So that's just one contract. So where do I see ourselves in 12 to 24 months? I'm hesitant to say, because I've learned in business that, a lot of things come up that you just can't plan for. But I'd like to see us at, at least an 8-figure revenue mark, on the road to 9 figures in 36 months, call it. And then profit, I don't know what the profit will be on that. But I know that more than likely we'd reinvest those profits until we can get to a stable point. But my take has always been, we can get to 8 figures in revenue pretty easily if we win one government contract. So that was the intention behind, establishing the government contracting program and taking a long-term approach and saying, look, even if it took us 24, 36 months to embed ourselves in the government, to talk to the procurement officers, to have relationships with, the Navy and the Marines and the Air Force, and we win one contract, we're set, right? Literally, it's off to the races.
Wow. That is unbelievable. Government contracts. I'm telling you, I'm invested in a lot of the companies that I'm invested in, and they do target those government contracts, and they're very, very, very lucrative. DJ Koo, I got to put this up. Business development is what I've done for over 15 years, granted in the travel industry, but BD is BD. That said, are you guys hiring?
Yeah, yeah, DJ Cool. We're definitely hiring, man. He said, LOL, but seriously, are you? What do you call it? Yeah, I mean, if you've been following me, that one of my favorite lines is, businesses don't build themselves, people build businesses. So if you want to build a great business, recruit the best people that you can. So we're always looking to hire people at the right, time, the right price, and the right skill set.
Hmm.
But yeah, absolutely. If you want, Nick at 3dxindustries.com, send over your CV. And if there's a way you can fit in, we'll be more than happy to entertain that. And, I'll schedule a call with the executives to see how you can fit in. But, if you've been following the journey for a while, I've recruited shareholders to work with us before because I think it's important. I think it's important that shareholders, little side outside of 3DX, I think the OTC markets is one of those special places where you have access to companies and where investor activists, shareholder activists really do have a strong position, like if you're investing in a mid cap or a large cap in Apple, you can go on Twitter and shout all you want, and you can make suggestions to the companies. Now, are they going to take it seriously? Not unless you have hundreds of millions of dollars invested. Meanwhile, in the OTC, you can reach the executives. You can definitely reach me. My phone number is right there on my Twitter account. You can always call me. But you can have an effect, right? So if a DJ Cool comes in and he has business development experience, and it takes one relationship here, guys. That's the beauty of a micro cap company, right? It takes one customer, one relationship, one contract to shoot these companies to the moon.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're always looking for top talent. We're always looking for people that can come in, and just know that we're looking for long-term partners. We don't do anything short-term at 3DX. So we're not looking for
Hmm.
a 6-month business and development officer. We're looking for a guy that can see it out, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, but minimum 2 years. Because we want to build a solid foundation. We're not looking for a quick pump, to a certain price. We're looking for stability in the company and, a fixed price that stays up there. So, but yeah, DJ Cool, definitely. Nick at 3dxindustries.com. Send over your resume, man.
And some great minds say, build the business and the share price will follow. And I think you guys are you guys are clearly going for a knockout. All right. But I have to ask this question. This is a typical OTC question. And no, it's not. Are you gonna do a reverse split? Because you'd have no shares left.
Yeah,
But no reverse split. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Do you guys planning on going for that kill shot and getting an uplisting to the NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange at some time in, not by the end of the year, but in the next 3 to 5 years? Do you look at that as a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a possibility. I've been jaded. So this is a person. I'll go off on a quick tangent here. It's a personal tangent, personal lesson I learned. The NASDAQ doesn't solve anything, right? It's almost a misguided goal.
Hmm.
So when I see executives or shareholders with that goal solely, irrespective of building a real business and all these other things that go into building a successful business, it's kind of misguided. And I understand, because I was there. At one point, I thought, the goal is to get to the NASDAQ. As a matter of fact, when I signed on to 3DX, that was part of my contract, is, meeting that benchmark, which is the goal. It's still part of my contract. It's still part of one of the goals and things that we want to do. But for me, it's not the focal point. The focal point is fully audited, right? Fully audited, sustainable, profitable business, right? So fully audited, meaning, we have transparency with our shareholders, that they understand that everything that we're doing is up to par, and fully profitable and sustainable. So that way we can maintain, because look, you give me $10 million loan today, I take us to the NASDAQ. What did it do? It didn't really do anything. It didn't change anything. So, the filing of paperwork to get us on another exchange isn't as important as creating a sustainable business. Now, does it open up doors for other things like, other funding options? Yes. Better transparency and better, mechanics behind corporate actions. Yes. Right. So it'll make sure we have an independent audit committee, and our board will have to be a certain size. So as far as protection of investors, it's important, but the QB and the QX do almost the same thing. You have to have audited financials there. So yes, the answer is yes, but it's not the main focus, right? The main focus is build a sustainable business, right? Build a sustainable business, and then, get a fully audited business. So that way we understand what we're dealing with. The investors understand what we're dealing with. And then, once the revenues match, the ability to go to the NASDAQ, then we'll go, right? Or our financials match the ability to go to the NASDAQ, then we'll go. But that's a major expense. You're talking about $1 million a year burn rate just to be listed there. So, if we get to our first $1 million in profit, I would hope that the first thing we do is, get audited and get to the QBQX. But I wouldn't be in a rush to spend that $1.5 million solely for this, ego trip of being on the NASDAQ. But as we grow, it's definitely on our list of things to get to, right? It's a personal goal of mine to get my company there. So for sure, it's on the target list. E-Rock, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I did have the mute on. Anytime it gets a little crazy in the house or I hear voices lingering in the background, I always mute it. And sometimes I forget. By voices, I mean screaming.
Yes, I know. I have a newborn, so I totally get it.
I know. You understand.
Yeah, for sure.
So John Don has another question here. Any plans to set up in Ontario, the Toronto Southwestern area is a hotbed for manufacturing?
Yeah, so we actually have we're right next to Vancouver, British Columbia, where we're set up in Ferndale, Washington. So there are a lot of connections to Canada. We don't have any current plans to set up in Ontario, but it's definitely something we're open to. If we find manufacturing partners, we're opportunistic. So, we don't have any current plans, but we're opportunistic for sure. And we definitely have partners in Canada, specifically Vancouver, that we work with all the time. So if the opportunity presents itself, yeah, sure, absolutely, why not?
Tom Stein has a question for you. Is there complex parts that are only made overseas and shipped over that DDDX could develop and sell?
Yeah, tons of parts. So this goes to tons. The answer, Tom Stein, is for sure. The question is, what is that part, and should we enter in making it? So we've had plenty of conversations about becoming a retail distributor of one product, right? And just kind of, usurping, going into an industry where exactly what, Tom Stein said, right? It's made overseas, the cost of logistics, and there's a high demand for parts. And then, we could make it here cheaper and sell it. So we've had that conversation. Unfortunately, that brings us from manufacturing to retail. So it's a little bit different, but we definitely keep that in mind. We're always looking at products, and seeing if there's a play there for us. But right now, business to business is probably the most efficient, cost-effective route that we can take. It doesn't give us the upfront cost of actually creating product and then, focus on a whole nother investment to sell that product. It's more like, win the contract, sell the product first, and then make the part. So it lowers the risk profile on the business by doing it business to business at the beginning. But we're definitely always thinking about that. And we take suggestions. So if you have any ideas, for sure, let us know.
All right, right on. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on. Hopefully next time we could have Harold on. I'd even like to have Roger Jansen on. Maybe we could do a roundtable and get some more great questions. By the way, guys, great questions. And
yeah, man, I appreciate the time, dude, for sure. And we'll definitely get Roger and Harold back on here. We'll get him a new computer. No, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. But my system, just so you know, my system in the back has a lag. I haven't seen you in real time the whole time. It's been lagging the whole time back here, but I could hear you fine. And man, I really appreciate it, Eric. I appreciate everything. And I love your energy in the OTC markets. We need it for sure. And I appreciate all the shareholders that came, everybody that's listening. Thank you, JJ, Tom Stein, John, DJ Koo. I see a lot of familiar, Sam Acker. I really appreciate you guys and appreciate everybody that mentions us, supports us, retweets us, does any DD on us. Really appreciate it. And thanks so much, man. Appreciate the time.
And please know the door at the BFC is always open to 3DX industry. So have a great night, Nick.
You too, man. Have a good one.
All right. Well, we have one more to talk about because guess what? Yes, I did plan that I did promise, I should say, that we are going to talk a little bit about CYBL. Now, I just love when stuff like this happens because this is when I could say I was right. So And and guys, thank you. Great questions, by the way, for Nick. That was absolutely awesome. Let's talk CYBL. Put your thoughts about CYBL in the chat. I want your opinion on how long you think that CE is going to come off. And I had Brett Rosen on. He said 30 days. I got the clip. I'm going to show it. But I gotta say, this is that the expert market or defunct or whatever that is gone. All right, the grace period is gone. And even Sam Aker says that the OTC has what they should need, but the OTC is the OTC, and the OTC markets is going to do what they do. But this is going to be a victory for all the people that have actually held through the CE nightmare. And so let me know what you guys think about CYBL down below. I think this thing is like a pressure cooker. I will tell you this right now. I look forward at some point, whether it be in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, in a month or 2 months, to having Mark Schmidt back on Buffalo Fireside Chats, along with many other people in the trenches of the OTC, from ILUS to AITX to NUGN to IGPK. I want this place to be an open door for CEOs, marketing directors, and all the people. Like I said, I always say in the trenches of the OTC, anybody in the business world. It doesn't even have to be an OTC. It doesn't have to be a NASDAQ stock. Anybody that wants to share information about business, or this is an open door policy for you guys, the BFC fam. So let's talk a little bit about of CYBL. I always get distracted with the comments. DJ Koo, holding tight, haven't sold a single solitary share. And you know what? You can't take my ILUS or my CYBL shares, even if I was cold and dead, because I would still be gripping them for dear life. That's just the truth. So let's talk. I'm having some fun tonight. Man, Nick is an energetic guest. He is an awesome guest, and he always has clear answers. And that's why I am taking the plunge into Triple DX. But let's talk CYBL. And I'm absolutely excited about what's going to happen. So here it is. Yes, the caveat emptor is still there. That thing's going to be gone. And I'm just going to make the bold statement. So all the people are like, it's game over, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? Hey, the Canadian traders have had some fun trading this one and making a couple bucks. And I guarantee you, many have taken profit, are probably they're in for the ride of their life, because this company has a lot going on. And granted, the share structure isn't as sexy as Triple DX, but they are doing a lot in regards to buybacks and the government contracts. Like Nick was saying, government contracts are freaking huge. And all you need is one, to really get things going. And so here it was today, May 3rd. And I did paraphrase that. That's not exactly what he says. All has to do with the share structure. So, but May 3rd, 2023, attorney letter with respect to current information. Now, this is very exciting. All right. It does talk about the Series B, and it does talk about those shares. And so let's go to this part right here. Mr. Brown, a former executive, this is the second paragraph from the bottom, a former executive who resigned in 2011 returned his 20 million shares of Series B to the transfer agent in 2011, but their certificate was lost and apparently never returned to the Treasury by the transfer agent. Accordingly, Mr. Brown has provided the transfer agent with a signed affidavit, which I have reviewed, confirming he has no Series B ownership, and the transfer agent expects the records to be corrected in the second quarter of 2023. The Series B preferred shares are part of and were created in a management protection package through the H.C. Wainwright capital raise in 2004. And I want to go down here. This last paragraph I think is absolutely crucial. I know, just based on talking with Mark Schmidt a couple times and having him on the show, he's passionate about the business. A lot of the people that I have on here, from JP Blackwell, Gene Caizo, Nick, like all these guys, Justin Matthews, you could tell they're passionate about what they do. And I think, that's why it's entertaining to me, because it's like I get to see people's dreams, come true as they work on their business. And I wish all these companies success, and the shareholders, I wish them lots of success as well. Let's look at this last paragraph. I have personally spoken with each of the persons and companies listed above, which includes officers, directors, advisors, employees, independent persons involved in sales and promotional activities regarding the issuer, which includes persons owning more than 5% of the Series B preferred stock collectively, the insiders. Based upon such conversations and other information available to me, I am of the opinion that there have been no sales of securities by insiders within the 12-month period prior to the date of this opinion. The only insiders in possession of any material non-public information regarding the issuer or the securities consists of the members of the board of directors and members of the advisory board, and they have not sold any of their shares within the 12-month period prior to the date of this opinion. In fact, as far as I can determine, none of the insiders have ever sold shares of the issuer. So there you have it. All this crap about inside selling and they're tanking the stock. And, I got to say, there is a redundancy to a troll posts on Twitter and stock Twitter. So insider selling and this and that. And it gets redundant, it does. And usually when somebody does not have an argument, it's just scam. It's a scam. But why is it? Explain why it's a scam. More specifically, oh, they're selling shit. Okay, explain specifically. You know what? And that's one thing I'm learning to do better is do the reading, do the DD, and back it up with something. And so, obviously, a lawyer letter, whatever the hell it's called. My guy, attorney letter with respect to current information. Sorry, my brain is a little fried, but I think that's important. You know what I'm saying? And that is a piece of due diligence. So I'm going to take that for what it's worth at this point. So. John Don, crossing my fingers about CYBL. I have been buying on the cheap only because I live in Canada. You know what? You have to throw that in my face, John? Really? Yeah, you're lucky. You're lucky. No, I'm just kidding. You are one lucky dog. DJ Koo is absolutely right. You lucky dog. I think, so, what do I think is going to happen? Here's my bold prediction. All right. I think that they're going to go pink current. All right. Has it been an easy road? It has not been. I mean, I've had my DMs blow up. I've had to reach out to people with my own number, that are very upset about the situation. I know, sometimes I crack jokes and people were like, well, you shouldn't say this or shouldn't say that. Humor is definitely how I get through shit in life. I have to be able to laugh at things, and if I'm not able to laugh at things and laugh things off, then you're just going to open into getting down and depressed. And no, you have to keep your head up. You have to keep moving along. You can't stop, and you got to keep on keeping on. And you always got to look out for your numero uno. You've got to look out for your best interest. And you know what? You may make a bad decision, but that doesn't mean your life's over. That you could always correct your path. That's one thing that I want you guys to realize. And one thing that has taken me, I always thought, oh, there's two paths in life. Like hell there is. You know what? There are many paths in life. One path may turn into 20. All right. And when you hit a wall, you turn around, go back and find another path. That's it. And so you can apply this philosophy in the trading world. We have wins and we have losses. Many of us have had more losses than wins these days, especially for us that have invested in these long-term plays. But one thing that I'm learning to do is take profit and keep trading. Take some profit, keep trading. Watch some more charts. John Don says, I will buy beer. Well, I bought kegs. I'm going to flip that. I'm going to hold a little long term. You never know. But a 0001 play, a nice lotto play, if that goes for a run for a couple of hundreds, I just made a little bit more money. Now, would I buy that thing at 0002? Absolutely not. I would not buy that thing at 0002. I know somebody that did buy a 0002. I go, why would you even bother doing that? Because it's been back and forth. There may be another opportunity. Just patience is really important. And that's one thing I'm learning. Some of my worst executions have been, well, they're all my own fault. At the end of the day, I got to look myself in the mirror and say, hey, click the buy and sell button. So patience is important. And and I've done it. I've done it where it's like, it's right at the price target. It's like right near it. And I say, I'm just going to do it anyways. End of the day, where was it hit? Oh, where I should have waited, and I'm doing that a lot less. I'd rather have $1,000 sit there and not grab than to grab at what I'll settle for at price. No way. So, and that's what I did with IGPK. I waited for 0007. I waited months. I waited for it and waited for it, and I struck it. And now I retained profit, and now I got free shares of another company. And then I'm going to flip that, and I'm going to keep doing what I have to do just to protect my investment and my strategy. Now, is everyone going to work out? No. I mean, that's not how it works. I mean, a lot of these OTC companies are complete garbage. That's just a fact. So the goal of this channel, my goal here is to bring CEOs on, to bring management on, to bring big time shareholders on. Like I could use Brett Rosen as an example, and bring people that are actively involved in the business world and involved in the OTC, and our traders and Sam Aker Finance, to bring people on that are going to educate not only me, but my viewers, so that way we make better decisions and we arm ourselves with knowledge. And that's just the most important thing. So I am rambling a little bit, but I think that like these are a lot of the lessons that I've learned in the last 2 years. And guess what? I'm only like 10% there. I have a long way to go. And let me look at the comment section. Jason C., I did talk about ILUS. By the way, Jay, it is my 2-year ILUS anniversary. Cheers to ILUS. Cheers to ILUS. And 2 years strong. That company has a lot going for themselves. Very excited. And the conglomerate is being built. And that is a big patience play. But that was one of the first stocks I've covered. Got to meet management. Got to meet them down in Miami. I can't wait for the next shareholder meeting. And I'm at the point like this. When you just... like I'm a pro ILUS guy, and that's just it. CYBL, that's it. I've had Nick on the show 3 times already. Boom, triple DX. These are plays that I like. These are people that I absolutely respect. And I am rooting for their vision, rooting for their success, and ultimately, if they are successful with their businesses, we're going to be successful as shareholders. So that's really all I got, man. I'll tell you, happy hump day. What a way to hang out in the middle of the week. Seriously, guys. But seriously, that's all I got. I got to chill out for a bit. It's been one hell of a week, and well, it's not over yet. You got to keep on keeping on, right? ILUS is on the clearance rack right now. Scoop, scoop, scoop. DJ Koo, I like the way you think, man. You know what? A year ago today, I actually doubled my position, threw 10 grand in, because that was the bottom, right? Little do we know, there's still economic retracement, and we're still adjusting. And I do think things are going to rebound in the next 12 to 14 months or 12 to 24 months. And you know what? I got to say, like, I really hope, and this is the truth, that the world stops going insane a little bit. I really hope things cool down, in regards to just the economy, the rates going up, global conflict. That is not something that I nobody wants to see strife in the world, because it just affects it affects our cost of living. It affects our living quality, not just here in the United States, but everywhere. So, I'm rooting for everybody to just for the world to just cool down a little bit. So, oh man, that is it. Well, guys, have an awesome night. That's all I got. This is it. That's all I got. You guys have an awesome day. And remember, there is more that binds us than breaks us, guys. Have an awesome night. Peace.